Hello and welcome to the Inventorpreneur series. Inventorpreneur captures stories about inventors and those who are indirectly involved in taking the research product to the marketplace. Essentially, those who play an important role in the innovation ecosystem. Here, I indulge in conversation with faculty members, patent professionals, and commercialization experts, and essentially others in the entire supply chain. And my first episode is with my dear friend who is an assistant professor in chemistry at the IIT Bombay. He has won numerous awards, and to name a few, Young Scientist Award in 2014 and IGMA Award for Young Scientist in 2013. He has 38 research publications to his name and co-inventor in a couple of patent applications. The scientific world knows him as Professor C. Subramaniam, and I know him as Subbu. I'm extremely elated to have you on this ribbon cutting episode. Welcome, Subbu.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction and for the. I'm more comfortable in you calling me Subbu, not in my official title or anything. So please
Uh,
let us have this conversation as Subbu and
yes,
Venkat. Yeah.
that's what I said. Like the scientific world knows you as a different person, but I take liberty in calling you as Subbu. Okay, Subbu. Before we get into this conversation, could you just, for the benefit of my listeners, share us about your education background and your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Venkat, for giving me this opportunity. It's indeed I take this opportunity, these kind of opportunities. The way I look at it is, it gives me a chance to also introspect and see where I am, and that helps me in making a clear path ahead as well. So it's a very nice opportunity for me. So coming to answer your question. Um, so most of my education was in Chennai, in and around Chennai. So I spent a good number of schooling. My formative years of schooling was at PS Senior Secondary School in Mylapore, Chennai, and then subsequently I moved to Loyola College, in the morning college, the autonomous college, for towards a bachelor's in chemistry. And this is where I would say is those 3 years at Loyola College that I spent was, and that we spent rather, because that's where I got to know you as well. So that remains as golden memories, not only in the kind of freedom and the kind of exposure the Loyola gave me, but also in it did a lot of it gave a huge boost to my confidence, and that is where probably my passion for chemistry was created, and that hopefully continues unabated so far. So the set of professors whom we had in Loyola for chemistry and physics and mathematics were unparalleled, I would say. And that was about Loyola. And then subsequently, I joined the integrated PhD program at IIT Madras, where also this was also a chemistry doctoral program. Like it's started with the masters and eventually ended up with a doctoral degree. And one of my biggest influencers and inspirations, um influential contact and inspirational contact was made at this place. His name is Professor T. Pradeep. He subsequently became my doctoral guide, and he has shown me the path in research. If Loyola was the foundation, Professor meeting and working with Professor T. Pradeep was the building that stood up on the foundation. I can, if I can draw a parallel or a metaphor in that sense. So he showed me how to approach research. What is science about? What is that passion, that unending passion and perseverance that you should carry when you do science? So that's and subsequently I this was in 2000. when 2008 I finished my doctoral degree along with my master's degree from IIT Madras, and then I went to Japan and spent a good 6 years there as a postdoctoral, initially as a postdoctoral researcher, and subsequently as a tenure track position at a national lab in Japan called National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology. It's called, in short, it's called AIST. As the name of this place suggests, this place uh, was very instrumental in me trying to reach out to technology through science. So it gave me a path, or it gave me beautiful insights into how scientific questions can lead into technological advancements or technological new technologies. This is something which was very important. So I would say, like every stage, there have been places and people who have helped me and who have kind of molded me into what I am right now. And if whatever I am in the scientific society right now, uh, it is a validation of what how people trained me, and people motivated me, people inspired me at these three different places, namely Loyola, IIT Madras, and AIST. And then I finished my tenure track in 2014, and I always had this passion to come back to the country. And academics was my clear choice. And so I ended up taking up an offer at Indian Department of Chemistry, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay in 2014, and since then I've been working there. And yeah, that's about it.
Subbu, you did mention that Loyola College's founding stone was laid for your career path. Uh, could you recall, or when did you actually start thinking about research or being a scientist? Was there a moment, a watershed moment in your life, if you can recall?
It was not one kind of watershed moment, but I would say for that kind of see, I always, the passion to do research and science was always there with me. It was just not clear whether it was not very clear to me whether it was going to be in chemistry or physics or maths. Uh, I was not too keen to do research in biology. That's something which well, my passion didn't drive me there. But now, having said that, um, there were, I can't attribute a single kind of a watershed moment which turned things around, but there was this very beautiful teacher in my school days. A couple of them. Umayal is one of them. I would definitely have to mention her name here. She was my science teacher way back in fifth or sixth standard. The simple experiments, very simple experiments that she did, she showed me. That is what probably laid the foundation for uh, trying to kind of think of science as a career. Um, these are like very simple experiments, like you have a lighted candle in a small pan of water, and then you put a glass on top of it. You see the candle extinguishing and the water coming out, rising in the level in the bottle. So this is an experiment which dated almost 200 300 years back, until Lavoisier did this, and he to show that air is composed of a combustible substance. But then it's a very simple experiment which every single one of us can do at our homes. We don't need a laboratory, but the concept it implies is something absolutely tremendous and absolutely universal. You do it in any place on earth, you would get the same result. And uh, and the this kind of simple experiments, there were quite a few such kind of experiments, like say these uh, the gem clips, the paper clips that used to float on water, and some, so even the toy. I remember this. We had a toy in. I had a small toy in my when I was really small. It's a small boat, in which you just light a small candle and keep it inside the boat and it would chuck along in the water, because there is a force, the steam force, which is driving the boat, and the water gets heated inside the boat, gets converted to steam, and the steam is used to propel the boat forward in the water. So these are all experiments which probably left a very deep. You see, if I'm able to remember these experiments, the probably 30 years down the line, I think these experiments left a very deep impression in me, and probably it was never a conscious decision to go to do research or science, but it was subconsciously. I didn't think of any other alternative. That's what I couldn't think of any other alternative. That's probably what how I would like to do it.
Yeah, it is great that you could recall that exact moment. I mean, there are two ways to look at it. One is uh, being at the right place at the right time, having a good teacher who could ignite, inspire you to achieve greater things. The other way to look at it is how receptive you are to receiving the information. So I would say that it just has to coincide. Having a great teacher and you being receptive of receiving that information and using that to inspire you further to take up this journey. So, yeah, fascinating to hear that. Subbu, I mean, there are many things I would love to unpack from different things you said here. Maybe I would like to focus on few things here. So now focusing on you being a scientist now driving your research team forward. So I'm always curious to know, how do you pick your research problems? Is it the market demand that drives you, or is it the scientific curiosity in you to solve some of the unsolved problems? How do you pick research problem?
Yeah, this is something which is, I would say, thanks for asking this question, because that again, this is a way. Trying to answer this question will actually give me greater insights in how I can improve. So a research problem to me is basically, okay, how do I put this? See, I often get reminded of this quote from the Journey into Light. This is a biography of Sir C.V. Raman, where he mentions that problems for science is there right around us. Or if you want to have challenging, if your eyes and ears are open and you ask the right kind of questions, problems are always enough. Problems are there around us, within us, everywhere around us. You just have to quote him directly. He says you just have to walk on the streets to find problems. This is what he says in the biography, Journey into Light. So I had a I try to follow this in my research path. So I look around myself. I want to just, if you ask me, I'll go to a place and kind of a busy place, sit and just observe people, observe what is happening around me, and that sometimes gives me a lot of a lot of questions which I try to answer. This is just, I would also put a disclaimer that this is just my way of arriving at research problems. I don't know whether it works, it is efficient, or I don't know, but it seems to kind of work for me, because the thing is, there is a lot of things in science that actually happens right around us, absolutely around us. It happens. It's just we need to observe, learn from what nature and science is telling us, and then there you have your research problem there. Yeah, you have your research statement if you ask the right kind of questions. To give you a simple example, like maybe very very simple example, which is kind of have throwing something, leading to something that we are doing right now in the lab. See, solar energy is there everywhere around us. Huge amount of energy, huge amount of energy, which is probably the amount of energy that India requires in one day is sorry, 1 year is probably met by solar energy what we get in one day. That's the amount of energy that is there around us. So now, and solar energy, people have been using lot of technologies like solar photovoltaics and uh, the chemical transformations like chemical degradation of solar induced photocatalytic photo driven chemical transformations and things like that. There is a huge industry and huge technology which is there around us. So I was just thinking about this and saying that see, if you look at this, why are we not using the heat component of sunlight? None of these technologies actually utilize the heat. They don't use the heat, but we know that heat is also a source of huge energy. The first thing, in fact, when we go in sunlight, in sun, especially in Chennai or Mumbai, is that you start feeling hot. That heat is abundantly there already in the solar energy. That component is largely unutilized. So I thought of, okay, why not design a material to try and capture the heat from the sunlight? And that is what we are working on right now. So what is this going to lead us to? It might lead to better kind of utilization of solar energy. It's definitely not in the terms of photovoltaics where you get electrical energy directly, get solar energy being converted to electrical or light energy being converted to electrical energy. But here we are trying to capture that heat, which is basically, when I say heat in scientific terms, it's the infrared part of the solar spectrum. That is what is responsible for us feeling hot in the sun. So we are trying to capture the infrared part of the solar spectrum using design materials that can do that, so that we can convert that heat, which is largely unused, and transform it to some other useful energy. So that is something which, so this is just to show tell you an example of how, looking around you, there is millions and millions of such research problem that, or research direction that nature is giving us. It is just our question of being able to observe and kind of come up with proper questions or suitable questions that can answer these problems. The other thing which I do a lot is I like to go to uh, these toy stores. It might sound childish, but I love being at toy stores. Unfortunately, because of this lockdown and things like that, I've not been able to do that. But often there are at least a couple of toys in my office. I just play around with them. I play around with them. I pick them up, but my most favorite part in the city in Mumbai is the Hamley's toy store. Or when I was in Japan, I used to spend a great deal of time in Toys R Us, which is a huge toy store. It has got choice from right from the 1-year-old kid to 100-year-old kid. So I spend a lot of time at these toy stores. Somehow this it gives me a lot of joy, satisfaction, and that is, I've got, to be very frank, I've got uh, quite a bit of answers to my research questions when I play with toys. So that's if that answers your question, but
Yeah,
I can elaborate
I'm
a bit
glad,
more.
Subbu. I'm glad, Subbu, you went in that direction. In fact, that was one of the questions I had reserved for you, asking about this toy stories, or the sorry, toy shop visits, where you try to
Uh-huh.
unwind and find your answers to your research problems. Yeah, I mean, it
Uh,
answers many things actually, as you rightly pointed out. Uh, Sometimes it's very simple to say, but it's always difficult to follow. Just keep your eyes and mind open to
yeah.
everything around you, so you never know, you find an answer to any problem. And also, just going back to your incident where you said that you go to this store, play with these toys, and sometimes you'll find a solution there. Yeah, many times
Yeah.
people get focused on to their everyday events, and sometimes it is always better to go outside the purview of what you're looking at. You never know, you'll find a solution to it. So yeah, it's interesting to know
Yeah.
that.
It's more like, if I just can elaborate. See, once I have a research question, once something starts bothering me, I tell this to the people who work with me, like my students and co-workers. That question has to, see, if I try to see whether I'm passionate about that question. I don't go seek out answers immediately. How do I test it? It's a test which I do on myself. So I keep, does that question come back to haunt me several times? So I try to forget about it once. Then does it come back to me? Does it start? The question, does it come back to me on my mind, or to me repeatedly? And that is how I know that, either subconsciously or whatever you want to call it. But I'm kind of passionate about that. So that is. Uh, that that basically, I tell this, that the question has to basically eat you from within. It has to, you have to keep on thinking about it. The question has to come repeatedly, not allow you to sleep, eat properly. And then suddenly, when you're doing anything else, for me it is playing with toys, but it could be different things for different people. The answer reveals itself. It's like, in the words of the famous mathematician from India, Sri Srinivasa Ramanujam. He said that if a equation doesn't represent a thought of God, it is practically useless. So something like that. If the question doesn't kind of corrode you from within, I don't say, I feel that, then that is not the right question for me. I don't have the passion to do that. It has to basically corrode my inner being, corrode me, and not let me sleep, eat properly. I have to suffer with that, literally suffer. It's not a, suffer is not the right word. It's a joyful suffer, if I want to say that. It's an oxymoronic word. It's a joyful suffer that I do with the question, and then slowly it starts to build layers and layers, and then somewhere I try to find answer for that question. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Subbu, if I have to pick on what you just said, which is the joyful suffering which you mentioned. Uh,
Yeah.
See, of course, I've listened to a lot of renowned faculties talk about some problems bothering them all through day, through night until they find a solution. So I take liberty in asking you because I know you well. So when you say that it keeps bothering you, how far you go into finding a solution? Because if you look at any research problem, there is no end to it. So
Mm.
how far you go? Oh, I mean, do you dive deep into the ocean, like until you hit the rock bottom, or maybe I don't know whether I'm framing it the right way, but I would like to know how far you go, or where do you see that, okay, this is where I see the dead end, or maybe I should take a diversion from this research path into some other path, or how do you find or
Okay,
navigate yourself?
so what I see as, mostly to answer this question, maybe I should give you a brief idea of what kind of research, the area of research what I'm trying to do. I work in, to put it very briefly, work in materials, nanomaterials, which are oriented towards energy, environment. In terms of energy, it is energy storage or energy capture or energy conversion. So these are the broad themes in which I work. So now, to answer your question, see, I feel there is no end to answering a question. Okay, a scientific question, it goes deep, it is endless, and I try to take that path. I try to take that path. One important thing which I have realized is, when I try to do that, the information, or the knowledge, so-called knowledge, that we have accumulated through courses or through studying literature, studying reference books, and all those things, is very, very little. It's not even a drop in the ocean. So, when I, in the process of answering this question, or in the process of trying to reach out to the multiple layers a question gives me, I keep, the deeper I go, I find that I one thing is, I get to know more about the concept which I thought is uh, only superficial, or I try to discover new concepts, meaning the concepts are already there, but then to me they are new because I'm learning it or I'm experiencing it for the first time. Okay, so I try to do that, and one thing I always try to do is I don't, when it comes to science, ego is something which I hate. Ego of somebody saying that, oh, I know this, I don't need to know this. That is something which I don't like. So I try to I try to avoid all kinds of ego. If somebody I feel that somebody can help me understand this better, I have absolutely no problem in approaching them and asking to explain this to me, whether it's a student or a faculty or a dean or whoever it is, or even, whoever it is. Okay, so I don't have any problem in approaching people for and asking for explanations or asking them to help me. So that basically helps me to go deeper and deeper and unravel. Like you say, you open one box and you find another box. You open that box, you find another box inside. So on and so forth. It's like peeling, or you peel an onion. You start peeling off layer and layer by layer of the problem. But at the same time, having been in my position as a doctoral student, I should also understand that every layer that I peel is a small part of the whole answer. So, and that is going to be useful for the student when he or she sits down to write a journal article or a scientific publication. So each layer represents a scientific publication to me, but then that publication itself is not complete work. It is not a complete work because there are still multiple layers to peel in the problem. So it's a continuous process for me. I don't see a distinct end to it, but yeah, this is what I see.
Okay. Uh, Subbu, at this stage, what we'll do is we are going to segue into a entirely different section, which is we are going to talk about research output. So maybe I can start off by asking you, like, which one excites you the most? Is it the applied science or pursuing basic science as a scientist?
Well, again, just like I don't like kind of differences in chemistry, physics, and biology and maths. Like the I don't I try not to see differences or these artificial boundaries in these. So I also try not to see artificial boundaries in something called application science or fundamental science. It's there is to me, I try not to see I consciously avoid seeing the boundary because it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is did I try to answer the question that I started out with. So if it involves doing fundamental experiments, like experiments which talk about the very fundamentals of the concepts, I'll do that. If it allows me to go from those fundamental questions or those fundamental experiments, allows me to extrapolate and lead into applications, I'll be definitely not going to leave that chance. So I would say it starts from fundamentals and goes towards. That's always been my thought process. Starts from fundamentals and goes towards applications. But having said that, I don't really see a different or a clear demarcation where this line of fundamental ends and where the line of application starts. It's to me is one continuous process.
You just follow the direction in which the problem takes you.
Yes,
Just
yes,
go essentially in that direction.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So, what is your opinion on research publications? Scientists reaching out to their peers. Uh, Anything you believe could be done better here?
Okay, so scientific publications is a whole different ball game. So see, when you do scientific experiments, um, you are led by curiosity. Curiosity drives you. When it comes to publishing your research, it's more of a salesman job. You need to put the findings in such a way that some other person or the scientific community gets interested in that, or sees some interest or sees a potential in that. So these are two different sides, probably, I don't know, maybe of the same coin. Um, but having said that, scientific publications are important. Whatever said and done, they are important, and they contribute to the. See, once a publication is done, the impact of it is there forever. Like it is there. It is like a it's an event in history. I would say that it's an event in history. So and nobody can take that out. Nobody can take that out. People can make modifications. Maybe one more generation later, people can say that that particular concept is wrong or can be explained in a different way or something. But then that at that point of time, that was the best available source of information, and that needed to be documented. That needs to be documented. That is very, very important. So I see scientific publication as documenting the progression in science. The document, it could be a minute progression or an improvement, or it could be a major breakthrough. Doesn't matter. It's a part of the documentation process that we need to do to keep science progressing. And along, when science progresses, the understanding progresses, the knowledge of the society progresses, and the society, the applications towards in that particular domain probably is impacted. So that is how I see a scientific publication. There are lots of ups and downs, the scientific peer review, impact factors. Each one of this is a huge debate whether to trust, whether the impact factors are correct, justified, or whether peer review is justified, because most of the time there is internal networking that is important and all those things. Each of this is a big problem. But then I don't get involved in all these things, because I see that, okay, if I have published, it's documented in science. Yeah, sometimes it does make you feel sad, especially when you see that the student has done in a lot of work. The problem is, you think is new, or deserves a better better journal for publication. It doesn't get through there. These things happen, but then I have to kind of. I'm still training myself to get over all these things and look at it as a documentation process.
So, of course, I'm going to move on to the other form of applications, which is
Yeah.
patenting. So, and as an inventor to many patents, what are your thoughts on the patenting process? What can be done better? And of course, I'm going to add one more layer to this question. Like, do you think the academic institutions are equipped to handle this entire patenting process on their own? And what is the level of awareness they have?
That's a very, very good question, because as somebody who works at both fundamentals and applications, I do encounter both these ends of the spectrum. That is, one is paper scientific publications, another is patenting. I feel that the large, huge strides that have been made by scientific publication academies like American Chemical Society or Royal Society or Wiley or anything you take, any publication company, there has been tremendous improvements, conscious improvements that have been got across in the scientific publication space. That, unfortunately, what I feel is the patent space has not kind of kept up with the changes, rapid changes in technologies. Just to cite, I would definitely like to have a more transparency in the whole way of patenting, and I would like to streamline it and make it faster, definitely faster. Look at it, like every single patent that I've been involved in has taken 3 years. That's not only for me. Any patent that is filed takes a minimum of 3 years to go through the first examination report and stuff, and receive our comments or our response. So the one thing is that the way a patent is handled and the way the publication is handled, the process flow, if I were to put it generally, is almost the same. So a paper goes, you submit it to a journal, editor handles it, gets sent out for review, you receive the reviewers' comments, you improve upon the manuscript, and then you finally get it through that. So this is the rough trajectory of a paper. If you look at a patent, it's not very different. You make something. If you think that something is worthwhile patenting, you start writing the documents and claims that makes it patent worthy. You submit it to the attorney. He or they suggest some changes, and then you come back, and then you finally submit the patent in the patent with the Indian Patent Authority, and then it goes out for review. Somebody handles this, looks at it, and sees whether these claims are genuine and whether they don't clash with any other claims and things like that. They come back with a response with saying these are the probably needs to be changed, or they come back with their opinion. You build on it and you respond to that and say that how it's still unique and different from the existing patent existing patents, and then finally it's through or it doesn't through. Neither of this can happen. So it's the process is very similar, but what has been very disappointing is that while academic review and the editorial process has been kept up with technology. Everything is now online. You can see the status. You can see what the status of the manuscript that you submitted. There is a certain very specific deadline to it. It doesn't go beyond. Most of the journals don't handle beyond a month or so. But if you take and compare that to a patent space, you take 3 years. See, remember, the students are the ones who are at the core of it. 3 years, you're not sure whether the student is going to remain with you or he's finished his degree and gone off. In that case, you are again you have to ask another student to start the thing, and then he or she has to start from ground zero. So the what I'm trying to say is the time scale of processing the patent, the professionalism in the patent space, the transparency in the patent space to a certain extent, that need, and the automation in the process. These are things that I would definitely love to see huge amount of improvement. Now, when it comes to the people, if you look at all these 4 factors in the patent space that I want an improvement on, it ultimately boils down to the people. So the people are unfortunately, at least in the Indian patent space, the people who are handling these patents are not really equipped. They don't come with the right kind of expertise to handle these patents. That has been a problem which has affected all these 4 dimensions: that transparency, the time scale of the patent, the manner in which the automation required, the manner in which the patent is handled, giving the inventor or the patent applier a strict timeline. Saying that this is the status now, this is the status now, this is the status now, updating the status. None of these things are actually happening. The efforts are being made in that direction, but as long as you don't have the right kind of people with the right expertise to handle these, it's still going to be a problem. No matter what kind of level of automation you do to the system. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely, Subbu. I hear you, Subbu. Subbu, I mean, since I've seen this side of the show as well, maybe I can comment on this a bit. I mean, if I have to compare and contrast the scientific peer review process with the examination done at the patent office, the scientific peer review process, it is more like, if I may call it, if I can call it as a crowdsourcing, which is, I mean, you select someone who is a specialist in the field, or the journal itself, they are going to select the doyens in the field who are going to review your publication or your submission. Whereas in the patent office, this is reviewed by someone, an examiner, who may not have the scientific expertise you would expect him to have. That is the problem one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I may just come in. See,
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
want the examiner to have the same set of expertise that I have. That is almost impossible. See, if I put up a patent in, say, nanomaterial space, I don't want the examiner to know everything about nanomaterials. That's impossible and unrealistic to expect. But what I would like to have in the person who is examining is a, a deep fundamental level of expertise in scientific space.
Right.
That is all I'm asking.
Yes,
So,
essentially
like,
you're
say for
asking to
example,
improve the quality of the examination process itself.
yes, exactly. And that, if you put in the right people there, ultimately that is going to cut down the timing, bring in more transparency, bring in
Yeah.
more level of automation. Everything gets solved if that right person is there at that right space,
Mm.
or the right set of people are handling that, or
Mm.
been given the powers to handle the
Mm.
submissions.
Mm. And also, Subbu, so if you look at the scientific peer review process, every review is going to enhance your level of research. So it be it a constructive criticism, you're going to work on it to try to improve
Yeah,
your data. Whereas here,
exactly.
the purpose is entirely different. You are pretty much like, I mean, the patent office is raising a red flag against your invention, saying that these are the objections. So every time here, you're trying to argue with the patent office, saying that, okay, these are the data, these are the data set you have. Whereas in the other case, you're trying to enhance and improve the research, the product that you have. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I hope that something definitely comes out. And of course, I have to say one thing, that yes, the patenting system in India is still evolving. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, they'll have the right set of people who who sh- who should be in a position to appreciate research. That is also the point which I completely agree with you. Higher examiners who has worked on research problems, or who has PhDs, or who has at least worked on some thesis to understand the value of research. You cannot have examiners who work, I mean, as an undergrad, they may not be able to appreciate the, 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 the value of research that's there in the document. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And in one sense, it's not only about the education level. Like, he might be an undergrad with, say, 10 years of experience. He would have already be mature enough than like what a master's level a patent person would be. So it's more both about, see, it's what I the point I'm trying to drive is, it's, yes, it is of course about education, but it's also about how aware you are, and how updated you are in that domain or in that space. Like, for example, chemistry. What are the latest big questions in chemistry? How is everybody trying to achieve it? So, what I want is the patenting authority has to work in close connection with
Right.
organizations like DST and MHRD, which are the major funding agencies.
Mm.
That bridge is never there. When you ask DST says whatever the patent rules for the institute, that is the patent. DST doesn't have its own patent guidelines. Neither does MHRD. But when you come to patenting, there is totally different set of guidelines in place. So I feel that at the higher level, a connection between the funding agencies and the patenting authority, Indian patenting authority, needs to be developed. That bridge is probably there, but it needs to be strengthened far more to actually realize some utility from the patents.
Yeah. So essentially, they have to break this barrier so that there
Yes,
is a easy
yes.
flow of information from either side. Subbu, another parallel question which I wanted to ask you is about uh, how academic institutions train the new hires, especially faculties, before they start managing their group and other things outside research. Do they go through any form of a boot camp training? Because my view is that all these hires may not have been exposed to any of this until they start learning on their job. Unlike any other profession where they are trained, here you directly jump into the job and start managing your group. So, what is
Yeah,
your view
exactly.
on how it can be done better, and what was your experience?
Yeah, that's true. That's incidentally, see, I I'm somebody who's in very much in favor of this kind of a boot camp, or something like a starting training session or orientation program for faculty who are joining new, fresh, especially after fresh after their postdocs with very little of industry experience and things like that. When they come and join, oh, definitely when I joined, I had huge expectations from IIT Bombay. I not to say that IIT Bombay has disappointed. It has. It is a the thing is it's an ongoing process. Satisfying my expectations and things like that is an ongoing process, and I don't expect it to happen overnight as well. I would be very naive in expecting it to get satisfied. All my expectations are satisfied overnight. That doesn't happen. But what I felt is very point you raised is very important. Um, Faculty being in research domain are exposed to teaching at various levels, teaching assistants initially during their PhDs. They themselves are the other side of the table during their masters and bachelors. They are students, so they then graduate to become teaching assistants, and then they are always in constant contact with the content. So in that sense, teaching per se doesn't need probably there is very little help that one can give from an institutional standpoint to teaching other than provide the basic infrastructure. So but research, when it comes to research and knowing your fundamental rights within an institute, that is something which I feel has to go a long way. Say, for example, simple things like uh, how how do you frame a research proposal? Is there? I've been for say, at least a couple of years now trying to make IIT Bombay come up with a office which can simply do some animations and graphics for us. Say for most of these when we submit to papers, the first look, like they say, the picture conveys more
Hmm.
thousand written words.
Hmm.
So if you are able to convey the right idea through the right conceptual pictures, graphics, um, that helps a great deal, not only in scientific publication but also in patent space. But unfortunately, so a few of us learned it as we go along in the chosen career path. Like it was a we kind of learned it because we didn't have an option. But one thing I would definitely like to have is a kind of a small design cell which can give us better ideas, make our animations, make our graphics, so that we can use it in the form of both in teaching and in publications, and that is something which is not there. And to cut deeper into the question that you asked, the institution, other than handling the faculty, the new faculty, a book and says, okay, you read this. This is called a faculty handbook. You read this, you will get most of your questions answered. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. What is written in the textbook, in the handbook, and what the way things go around, it's very different. So we need to. I spent, or even my the people who have joined after me, all of them have spent considerable amount of time trying to learn and learn the system. Okay, that learning the system, if you can cut it short through an orientation, if you know, okay, if you can tell us right at the start, this is the cell, or this is the person, this is the office you need to go for this kind of a problem, or if you want some help in this direction, you need to approach this kind of a person, or this particular office. That is definitely not there. I can stick my neck out and say that that is definitely not there. Most of the time, as a junior faculty, I've experienced this, and I'm doing it as a 6 years down the line as well. When I joined, I had to go to the senior faculty, ask them, how should I do this, how should I do this. Every time I have a problem, I have to ask the senior faculty or the department office to, how do I do this, how do I do this, how do I go about doing this. If I want to purchase something as simple as purchasing a laptop, how do I do it? Okay, that is something which I had to learn, because that is the system. There is no ready acknowledgement, ready-made notes, or ready-made guidance that is available. If there is a process chart which tells me this is how you need to purchase a laptop, even if it is 10 steps, I don't mind, because that information, once it's available to me, is I can use it. But then for every step, it's you see, it's at one level it is about valuing your time as a faculty. also valuing the time of senior faculty who are definitely very helpful, no doubt. They help you whenever you approach them. Whenever I approach, they were ready to help. But then it's a matter of time for them, and that somehow that essence of time being a tangible material, and it's a valuable tangible material that is sometimes lost. The value of time is not really uh, felt in these kind of instances, and having certain kind of a orientation program, or uh, a kind of like boot camp, like you put it, that would definitely help in making the system much more professional, and much more efficient, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. At
So,
least
for
peace.
example, I would just
Yeah,
like to just the last point I would like to add is, see, when the
please.
first year BTechs join IIT Bombay or any other IIT, they spend nearly 1 week which is called a orientational week, trying to familiarize themselves with the system. Okay, so that 1 week is very important for them, because that is where they make choices. They make choices of whether to join a debate club, or whether to join a Rotary club, or whether to join a NSS, or what racing team, whatever. Okay, they make choices there because they are aware that such choices exist, such options exist. That one whole week is about making them aware of the options and possibilities that this institution can give them. Why not something similar for a faculty? Because that 1 week is then going to be much more effective when you do that for a faculty. Of course, faculty join at different time periods all around the year, but you can still have a couple of boot camps for say, and group these faculty into both these two boot camps or orientation segments. I would definitely love to see IIT Bombay take a lead and do that.
Mm. Yeah, this is pretty much like uh, in any other domain. Like I have experienced my fair share of uh, chasing after things. Now it is your turn. You go chase after things until you figure out a solution. Rather, all your
Exactly.
precious time can be saved by having all system in place, be it a orientation program or
Exactly.
1 week of boot training where they learn the trick of the trade involving various elements of be it submitting grant or small things. Yeah, yeah. This was one thing I always wanted to ask someone who is in the academic institution. Glad that you have put that message out for all the listeners. Excuse me. So, bro, on a parallel note, see, there is a myth floating around, at least among the researchers, that there are only two academic paths for them. One is the academic path, the other is the industry path. What is your opinion on that? And how do you train your students to choose their career path?
Okay. So the truth of the matter is, I don't train them to choose their career path. Uh, I train them to think, and if I have done my part of the training, I what this is what I believe in. I train them to think of any. It can be anything. It can be research problem. It can be non-scientific problem. But if they can think, come up, think, provide a logical path to think in, and then followed by executing what their thoughts are, and then coming up with a solution, possible solution. That is what I believe that I'm training them for. Uh, for so I don't train them for choosing a career path. Um, but then, having said that, see, there are multiple career paths available other than the conventionally taught two straight paths, which are basically you either become a faculty in an institution, or join an R&D team of a company. Okay, these are the most, I should say, most predominant paths that the student thinks, and this is possibly because this is both these paths have withstood the test of time. They have been around for a few decades, quite a few decades now. So there is nothing wrong in that. But then what you must also realize, what the student must also realize is, after graduating, there are multiple options that that are available now, which are probably not available even 5 or 10 years back. The government of India has been very encouraging in going with pushing for startups, and this I would definitely. I actually see that a lot of BTechs, undergrads who come out from IIT Bombay, are now going towards this path of startups. That's because there is the government support in that direction has become increased tremendously over the last decade or so. There has been a major drive in trying to come up with technologies, and the scientific community has been responding extremely positive for such kind of drive from the government side. So this is one big path that has opened up in the last decade or so. There is also a path, say for example, in the patent space, like trying to establish a patent attorney or a patent consultation firm. That's a path which students have unfortunately not been exposed to in their academic circle. But then we are at IIT Bombay. We have started new programs which focus or which give importance to the developing a technological know-how, patenting, and in that direction. So I think that path is also slowly getting opened up. Then there is definitely a postdoctoral researcher as an alternative, as a career option, and also there is quite a bit of when it comes to how would I put it? See, when it comes to industries, there is one level of R&D that goes on in big industries like Reliance, BASF, but then they depend on a big, very huge resource that is very often ignored in academic circles, and this is the art of instrumentation. How do you build instruments? Okay, you need to have an engineering background, mind bend of mind, mind bend towards for this. You need to be have a good knowledge of materials. What are the right kind of materials? What are the right kind of tools to say? For example, when do you spot weld versus when do you weld cold weld, or when do you finger weld? So these are things which probably no course or no structured academic course can teach you. But that instrumentation space is becoming extremely important um, in the coming years. I definitely want to highlight that here, and there are brilliant people. Just about a month back, I was at one such engineering at one such industry, or it's a kind of a small scale industry, I would say, but this is completely meant for providing instrumentation and for industries. And you won't believe the size of the reactors they build are like something to the scale of 3,000 liters, 5,000 liters of reactor space. Huge, and this needs a lot of engineering to go behind it, lot of science has to go behind it, lot of design has to go inside it. So this is a very strong area that is emerging, and I want to people who are if students happen to listen to this, instrumentation as a science is becoming extremely important. We better wake up for the towards that reality. That is one thing. The other pathway is probably, if I just make it very short, there is also an equal pathway in a very interesting pathway in joining publication houses. Now that most of the publication houses have built a platform in India, so American Chemical Society has a significant presence in India. So does Royal Society of Chemistry, London, and so does Wiley and other publication houses. They are coming to India, just like other industries are coming to India. They are coming to these people. The publication houses are setting up um, uh, bases in India, and that opens up an entirely new avenue for students to go after their research program or after their undergrad education is completed. So these are avenues which like I said, you need to be open and keep an open mind and an open eye and look around you. So yeah, that's what.
More than the interdisciplinary, I feel that we have to have a cross collaborative efforts, not only within the scientific domains, even outside the scientific domains. Like, for example, be it the business management or be it patenting, all of the knowledge about each of these domains would only enhance your efforts in whatever endeavors you're working on. Uh, with that, Subbu, can you tell us what is the research problem you're working on now, and tell us about different projects in your.
Okay, so yeah, thanks. So, see, like I said, I'm working on something like how do we more effectively capture and utilize solar energy? That is one problem that I'm working on. I'm also looking at. I'll be very brief about this. Working on flexible energy storage devices. Say, for example, my dream is to kind of uh, build a battery which can be integrated onto a shirt. The person wearing the shirt doesn't even know that the battery is there, but that is doing a job of providing electrical energy to power some small components, say for example a heart monitor, a BP monitor, an oxygen monitor, or something like that. So that's something which has been my dream, and that probably would lead to standalone computations. Basically, the next step is like, can we build a processor? Can we build a computer? Can we do simple arithmetic computation with nothing but your shirt, on nothing but your shirt as a platform, or a fabric as a platform? So these are things which excite me, which I'm trying to slowly kind of. I'm at a very baby taking baby steps towards it, but this is the final goal that I would like to see. There are also other fundamental problems where I try to combine electrochemistry and Raman spectroscopy, and try to understand fundamentals of catalytic processes. So how does a catalyst, how does the chemical catalysis happen? Like say, for example, you use a iron catalyst to convert nitrogen to ammonia. This is one of the most, not no the most important, not even one, the most important reaction of the probably the last 2 centuries. The process of nitrogen fixation, the Bosch-Haber's process. It is because of that we are able to live now. That provided fertilizers, and that led to the industrial green revolution, and that is what uh, leads us the food production, which has been increasing, is because of this simple reaction of nitrogen going to ammonia over a iron catalytic surface. So how does this happen? These are questions. Can I probe the transition states or the intermediates in this catalytic process? Not exactly in this catalytic process, but many other things, like for example CO2, carbon dioxide. Can we convert carbon dioxide into some other useful fuel? So that these are questions which I try to answer through a mix of both fundamental and application oriented research experiments. Yeah.
Okay. Just for the benefit of my listeners, I'm going to provide your webpage link, your research group link in the show notes. So definitely they can take a look at your
Yeah,
research
absolutely.
page and see what you're working on. And also, I'm sure that they can reach out to you if they want to collaborate or write to you about
Absolutely.
research projects.
Absolutely.
Uh, and I must apologize that I somehow refrained from asking about your research projects, and I reserved that as my penultimate question. So I thought that will
No,
be
no,
a
no.
show.
Absolutely fine. That's fine.
I
That's
thought
fine.
that will be a showstopper question. So yeah.
No, no. I don't want this to be more about me. It's more about my views. So it should be. It's
Uh,
perfectly fine for me.
Subbu, I mean, this is my last question, and I prefer to end the show with this question. So, what do you tell younger Subbu if you were given a chance to go back in time?
No, I don't want to change anything. Well, I don't want to change anything of what I have done, or what I have not done. So I prefer to keep it like that. I don't like to look back and say, okay, this is might have been done in a better way, or uh, maybe I would have done a different thing here. No, I uh, respect what destiny has given me, and I have absolutely no problems with it. I'm happy with whatever is being thrown at me. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Subbu. I thoroughly enjoyed asking these questions with you, and I'm sure that a lot of listeners would have a significant takeaway from all the information that you have shared. Uh,
Thank you so much, Venkat. Yeah, like I said, these sessions also help me in introspection. So that's a very it's I'm very thankful for you to ask for having arranged this and asking me these questions.
Pleasure, Subbu. Pleasure always to discuss things with you. Thank you.
Thank you.